What's up, guys? This is Mystery School back again with another video. There's no PowerPoint this time, but this is just going to be more like a generalized spiel about religions, gods, and what we should do about morality and moral standards. So let's get started. So, I don't know if God really exists or not, but it's a useful tool to get people to do things. It makes morality easier, since once a person accepts that God exists, a few things could follow from that. Most people seek pleasure and want to avoid pain. Convince them that God will send them to hell, and most of them will at least try to do what the book says is morally right to avoid that pain, to avoid going to hell for all eternity. It gives everyone a general starting point on which to judge other people and provide everyone with a bedrock of societal norms that are generally agreed upon within your community. So, a nation, even a small community of people living in a household, could have their own version of their God and figure out what's acceptable in our household versus what's acceptable in the community versus what's acceptable in a nation. But at the end of the day, the idea is that it gives everybody the general same moral starting point of like, these things are taboo or bad and we should not do them because either God says so or we know that there are things that come off of those actions that would cause other bad things to happen. So, the religion that the God is the head of provides people with a community and connections, which is something that we are generally lacking in our society right now. A lot of people don't have a sense of community or a lot of like societal or rather friendly connections in which to get jobs or get business. All that stuff used to come from the church, from what's it called? Those like the um moose lounges type places where like you would like meet with other men, talk to them, and get a beer and talk. That stuff appears to be in like massive like decline right now. Obviously with COVID, but even before that, it seems like those things just weren't happening as much as they used to. Now, this doesn't mean that all people won't quote unquote sin. It's expected that you will slip up, but rather what we want is for people to think twice before they commit a sin like killing a person. Effectively, you want to ask the question, what would Jesus do? It's one of those dumb idioms, but like when you think about it, okay, well, what would a virtuous man, quote unquote, do? What would this God on earth do if he was down here? It's not about you trying to be him, but trying to think about, hey, well, I'm about to do something that I know is bad. What would this other guy do if he were down here? He wouldn't do it. So I'm not going to kill this person. So if most people generally follow the moral teachings, then the hope is that they will do less of what is deemed to be bad and destructive. It's not about stopping all people. Like, don't get stuck caught in the like nirvana fallacy of like, oh, well, you didn't stop all the bad stuff happening in the world, so your idea is shit and you shouldn't ever do it. That's not the point. The point's never to stop Chad and Stacy from being fuckheads or stop Beta Billy from shooting up school. All we really care about is are the majority of people following the rules, and we will deal with the other ones later on. Okay, like I'll ship your ass off to a jail cell, and you get to live in hell. I don't know, but you figure it out at the end of the day. Like you will punish those who don't follow the rules. Like don't always try to strive for like this like perfect world because you're never gonna get that. It's just absurd to even expect it. Okay, so now there are side effects for religion and God. You can think of religion like a drug. Once it enters into the psyche and takes hold, it will cause people to feel guilt and shame for actions, even actions that might have in the past been considered good. It can also cause men to commit atrocities. So, like when I say, the psyche and causes this guilt and shame, the best way I can describe it is that when I'm about to do an action that I think is wrong, there's this like hesitation to do so. It's almost like this like I get this like shaking sensation of like you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing this, and I have to like do a lot more work to get past that moral hurdle in my mind to do an action that I would deem to be bad. That's the best way I can describe it for myself. Now the problem with this line of thinking when we're talking about atrocities here is that when talking about morality is that it's really easy to look at the past, to look at past atrocities and call the people who did them bad people, quote unquote. But in reality, they were just men and women of their times and did what people of that age did. It was easy to be virtuous when you don't do anything. If men did not commit atrocities in war or in other arenas, then we wouldn't be here. America would not be here. Most countries wouldn't be here. We'd all be sitting here smashing rocks together and I don't know, eating fish, eating raw fish, or fucking, I don't know, killing each other. Who fucking knows? Like we certainly would not be here if men did not do things like invade countries, rape, pillage, murder. All that stuff happened, and we're all sitting here today. It's just true. Yet we look to the past, especially if you're of the SJW persuasion, and deem those men, or people rather, to be evil or bad. At the end of the day, it was what it was. Those people did what they did because of the time period that they lived in. And all the moralizing that we're doing today is simply post hoc. It's done after the fact. Oh, well, that was actually bad because X, Y, and Z. Well, that's easy to do when A, you're sitting here in America where you don't have to do a fucking thing. Most of us don't do anything. We sit on our fucking ass all day long, drinking crappy ass soda, or drinking shitty beer, and watching the football game, and then we hear about this bad person. Well, he's bad, obviously, because he did something bad. Okay, well, that's really easy when you're sitting on your ass on your couch doing nothing. And that applies to me too. But I tend not to. I try not to look at other people, especially looking back really, really far in the past, and saying they were bad people. That's really, really. It's almost like, well, we have the perfect system now, and the people back then, they were just savages. Bullshit. But to go back to God and religion, let's take a look at our current crisis of the COVID pandemic. When things started to get bad, people began hoarding toilet paper and other necessities. This is what you expect people to do during any sort of crisis, really. But did people really need to take the entire aisle of TP for themselves? If this person had thought about his neighbor or the elderly neighbor he had, then perhaps he would have only taken half of the aisle. While you might still call this action greedy, it's still a better outcome. When you remove the morality from capitalism, then what you get is a system that is winner take all. So when I talk about this person taking the entire aisle of TP, had this man, instead of just walking down the aisle like a fucking robot and with no thought in his fucking mind other than I have to get mine today and fuck everybody else, had he actually thought about his community, had he invoked the mantra, what would Jesus do, or what would my religious deity do? Had he done that, he might have thought twice about taking the entire aisle. He might have only taken half of the aisle, and that's still pretty bad, but it's not as bad as the whole aisle. I think that's a better world because it gives other people a chance to get TP too. With no moral roadblocks in your way, you will simply behave like a wild animal, unworthy of a civilized society. If you want to return to a state of raw nature, then I'll pay for you to get shipped off to some third world shithole. Just because you can buy the entire aisle of TP doesn't mean you should. To relate this back to dating, just because you can fuck half the neighborhood doesn't mean that you should. If you read most religious text, kind of like a history book, it's basically a book of history, effectively. History, fables, parables, etc., about human experiences that tell us what worked in the past and what didn't. What we should do in certain situations and what forms of moral decay to look out for and to stamp out early on before it gets too bad. To end this, it's okay to feed one's demons, but make sure your angels are stronger. Keep in mind that not all demons or sins are created equal, and some should never be fed, and that some angels or virtues require too high of a price to pay to achieve them. Oh man, so this is the Mystery School. I'm signing out, guys. Have a good rest of the week, and never forget that wisdom is gold. I've been working on a few other videos that have PowerPoint shit in it, so we'll meet up one fucking week either way. All right, guys, see ya.